Speaking with Confidence, the podcast dedicated to helping you unlock the power of effective public speaking. I'm Tim Newman, a recovering college professor turned communication coach, and I'm thrilled to guide you on your journey to becoming a powerful communicator. I want to thank each and every one of you for your support. It truly means the world to me. If you have questions or if you want something covered on the podcast, just send me a message. Please visit timnewmanspeaks.com to get your free ebook, The Top 21 Challenges for Public Speakers and How to Overcome Them. Today's guest is Ron Reich. Ron has 30 years of training and development and consulting experience. His background is broad-based, having worked for some major organizations such as Toshiba, the Chubb Corporation, and several pharmaceutical companies. He's done consulting work in many industries, including medical, assisted living facilities, manufacturing, high-tech, retail, pharmaceuticals, and banking. The majority of his work through these years has focused on leadership and management development, along with corporate training and organizational development and coaching at all levels. Ron's philosophy about leadership is quite simple. It's about the leader's colleagues and how the leader can help get them where the team needs to go by building long-lasting and sustainable relationships. Ron believes no one graduates from leadership school. Every leader needs to be a work in progress, always learning and growing. Ron, welcome to the show.
Tim, thank you. It's good to be here. I'm really excited to have the chance to talk with you.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a great conversation. In our pre-show talk, we're on the same page. And one of the things, there's really two things that stuck out uh, about you for me. One is about the relationships, but two, what I want to start talking about first is really the amount of reading that you do. You do a ton of reading, which to me I love. Um, but to young professionals today, at least in my experience, really don't like to read, don't read nearly as much as we do, and how important do you think reading is, not just in terms of our own personal development, but in terms of improving our communication skills?
Tim, I'm going to go all the way back and I'll share with you. We may have done this in our pre-call. I don't remember, frankly. The best piece of business advice I ever got was from an old boss of mine, a pharmaceutical company. We were talking about my review, my increase, and everything was good. And I said to him, I was like, Joe, I admire David so much, one of my colleagues. I said, he's so well rounded and just everything else. And Joe just said to me, Ron, he said, you are really good at what you do. He said, you can get a lot better. And what I want you to start doing is to read. And that's one of the reasons David is so good. If you can read 10 pages a day, 5, 6 days a week, you have no clue what's gonna happen. And in the 23, 24 years, whatever, Tim, from then, I've read over 400 leadership books,
Wow.
tying it into how it makes a difference. Number 1, my confidence has gone up enormously because I just have so much more knowledge at my fingertips.
Right.
Equally as important, now I can be a resource to people on so many different levels. Number 1, making book recommendations. Number 2, just pulling information from books, sharing models, sharing information, whatever it might be. And I mean, it's just so true. I mean, minutes before we got on the show, I was reading my latest book. It's called Beyond the Hammer, and it's
Okay.
about vision, the importance of vision and mission within an organization, and communicating with your employees. And again, it's none of the information in here is brand new to me. And that's
Right.
fine. That's good. It shouldn't be. Except it's reinforcing. It was the greatest piece of advice I ever got.
Ron, I completely 100% agree with what you're saying for all those reasons, and trying to get that across to, the younger generations is really difficult. And, I read something. There was a post on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, and it was a bunch of people complaining about kids not reading and this, that, and the other thing, and it instantly aggravated me because, yes, I felt the same way, but we've got to, as the older generation, have to convince students or give them, the younger professionals, give them reasons to read as opposed to just complaining about it, and help them understand the importance of it and what that can do, again, not only for your personal development, but your communication development, your personal relationships, your business relationships, all those types of things are 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 needed, and a lot of it comes from reading. When we look at our attention spans and how they have changed over the years, not to go into a history lesson, but if you go back to, the 20s, the the 1920s, because we're in the 2020s, but go back to 1920s, and, when radio came online and magazines came online and newspapers became way more popular than they were before that, and then TV came online, and then, you know, I believe it was the '80s when USA Today was first published, and Ron, you probably remember this. It was the first news daily newspaper that was in color.
Yes.
The articles were shorter,
Yes.
smaller, much more bite-sized piece of information, and now move forward to how we're communicating now. Most younger professionals get all of their information from social media. Think about that. They're getting their news from TikTok. They're getting yeah, that kinda is what it is, and they're not actually reading information. I mean, they're no, lem they are reading information, but they're not reading the right types of information, okay? And we've gotta reach out to them and get them to start doing that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt, and I mean, I think so much of this comes from the instant gratification.
Yeah,
I don't have time. I don't have time. And I mean, it's amazing to me when I make a recommendation to someone is that it's exactly what Joe said to me. It's still applicable. It's just,
yeah,
can you read 10 pages a day? Can you find the time somehow, some way
right,
to take 15, 20 minutes and just read 10 pages a day?
right.
And, sometimes, not always. Obviously, you can see the light bulb coming on where it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I could do that. I can do that. That's no huge deal. It's like, yeah, I'm not asking you, read a book a week and then write a report on it. Nothing like that.
Right,
And
right.
I mean, one of the other big things for me too is that at least it's been my direct experience, and I believe so strongly. People who are well read, it just gives you so much more credibility.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's so nice to be able to say to a client, to a class that I'm facilitating, "Oh, I pulled this out of a book that I read."
yes,
This comes from X book, whatever it might be. And people realize, okay, he's just not throwing us his opinion. And
exactly.
that's critical to me, which goes back to relationships and solid communication because it's
Mhm.
not my opinion. It's based on research.
Right, right, and, talk about relationships here for just a second, with the age of technology and AI, and I get it. It's important. We have to learn that stuff, because if we don't learn it, we're gonna be the ones left behind. And understand, though, that I don't care what industry you're in, it's always about relationships.
Oh,
It's always about the connections. It's always about, building good, healthy, strong
that's
relationships.
right.
That's the bottom line.
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, one of the things I love to do, and it's fun, and it again, you see light bulbs going on, whether I'm coaching somebody individually or in a class. One of the first things I always do, your role as a leader, I'll put flip charts up if it's a class or just ask somebody, what are the major things for which you are responsible from a macro perspective? They'll write things down and say, "What's interesting?" And we always come up with, "There's next to no technical information on the list. It's
Right,
about people."
right.
It's about people.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh, yeah,
How about
those
that?
things.
How about that? And so, if I mean, Let if we can get one person a day to understand that and realize that and carry that on, we'll be we'll be there in no time at all.
That's right.
Uh, it's you have to understand that. But here's another piece to that though. If we understand this about people and it's about relationships, we have to know who we are as individuals, right? And that brings us into the whole emotional intelligence. That's become a buzzword the last 5 to 10 years. But when I grew up, it was you better figure out who you are as an individual. Who are you? What are your values? What
It's
do you like?
still
What are
there.
you good at?
That's right. And, Tim, those are the exact things, truly, that I ask my clients to do. Again, whether I'm coaching them, whether I'm facilitating a class, you better know these things. And equally as important, in addition to knowing them, you need to be able to articulate them because people are looking for that. And again, as I understand it, and based on the reading I've done, the younger generations are looking for that from us. Hey,
Yes.
hey, hey, who are you? What are you? What do you believe in? And don't throw me a bunch of fluff. And if I can't articulate that clearly, it's a problem, as it
Yes.
should be, because I need to
Right.
know myself very, very deeply.
Yeah. So how can reading help them figure that out?
Well, I mean, there are so many different things. Number one, I mean, there are books that can help you to determine what your values are. There are exercises, there are assessments you can use. Uh, I've put together from reading that I've done, Tim. I call it my 15 thought pondering questions, and
Okay.
it is all about helping an individual to get to know himself or herself on a real deep level,
Yeah.
personally, professionally. And I mean, as an example here, how you can use this. My wife's cousin Jen was the assistant the assistant trainer at a Division II college school.
Okay.
She was offered I think she was offered the head training position. She was talking to my wife and saying, "Oh, man, I don't know. This would be glorious. I mean, the money is just unbelievable. Wayne and I would like to buy a house, blah, blah, blah." Fine. And yet she was struggling a little bit because of the time commitment. Lori said to her, "Oh, Jen, don't worry. Ron will be glad to help you." And of course I
Of course.
was.
Right.
I made this longer than I meant to. I sent her the thought pondering questions and I said to her, "Jen, I will be glad to talk to you. Before we do, you got to answer these."
Right.
We got on a Zoom call and she was like, "Oh my. Oh my. You just had me thinking about so many different things here." And I
Hmm.
was like, "Jen, that's what it's about, is getting to know yourself, what's important to you." I know, you love the kids, you love your husband and your family. Your career is a part of that. How can you balance that? And that's what these questions are designed to do, to help an individual
Yeah.
learn more about themselves and realize, okay, it is really dangerous if I make this decision in the moment.
Right. Exactly. And you're so right. There's you have to be able to take all those things in consideration, and kind of along the same lines. I'm working with a couple of individuals right now who they have to make some real decisions, and I say these shouldn't be hard decisions. They should be real easy decisions because at this point in your life, you should already know for you, not for me, but for you,
Right.
what's right and what's wrong.
Yes.
And when we start making those types of decisions, for me, and I tell them, for me, what other people see as tough decisions, it's not a tough decision for me. It's just because I already know. I already know what I believe. I already know who I am. I already know these things,
Right.
and
Right.
it's easy to make tough decisions.
These, when that's right. When these values and everything we're talking about are so deeply ingrained, it's just instinctual. And it's not a gut decision. It's a decision based on values, who I am, what I am. And yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly it. And plus, if I'm hesitating, in a yes, no, should I, shouldn't I, if I'm hesitating, it's like, gee, is this the right thing to do? The answer is probably no.
probably no, right, right. Unless, and I will put a caveat, unless we've missed something,
Absolutely.
right?
That's fair.
Unless
No
we've
doubt
missed
that's
something,
fair.
and that happens. I mean, obviously, it's happened with. I mean, it's happened with me. And I think back. You know what? That's a good point. Didn't think about that, but
Well,
my
and
my decision was still right, and I'm glad that you brought that up because that's something that will now go into the blender for future decision making.
well, let's circle back though too,
Mhm.
because if I have a major decision to make, and ideally, yeah, I mean, I can make it. If I'm not sure, one of the things I like to talk about with people too, and I still do it after all these years, I need to turn to somebody that I trust,
Yes.
relationships, and get some
Mhm.
input, get some advice, and it's like, hey, what do you think about this?
Yes.
And again,
Yes.
that's where the relationships need to be in place.
Mhm. And not just the yes person relationship, the real
Exactly right.
relationship, the real relationship.
That's exactly right.
Um,
That's exactly right.
again, I had this conversation. So I went up to see my grandkids last week before, and I spend a lot of time on the phone when I'm driving. Um, and I was talking to my best friend, and he's got a business. I'm helping him sell it, but he's not really ready to sell it yet. And he was bouncing some things off me, and he said, Everybody thinks that this is a good idea." In what we were talking about, I said, "Well, wait a second. Why is it that a good idea? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?" And he said, "You know what? I haven't. I've just been taking what they've been saying." I said, "Mike, you need to really think about that because that's gonna change so much. And if I'm just being a yes person to him, that could cost him a ton of money."
That's right. That's exactly right. And I mean, yeah, it is. It's just, and again, it's reminding me of a book I read quite a few years ago that ties into that. It's called "Let's Get Real" or
Yeah.
"Let's Not Play," and it's all about helping people to. It's essentially sales training, and again, sales training from a very, very strong consultative perspective. And again, the point being though, absolutely is that you've got to have these honest conversations with each other so that again, otherwise, what is the relationship really worth? Otherwise, it's surface.
Exactly. So when we're talking about emotional intelligence, I think it plays a big role in our communication style and communication skills. Um, what are your thoughts there? Because you know, you and I talk again in the pre-show about knowing who we are in terms of everybody is smart, but we're all smart in different ways,
Yes.
right? And we have to accept that and lean into it. And again, I agree 100% with that. But how does that relate to our communication skills?
Well, I mean, for me, Tim, I think it goes back to what we were just talking about. I'm a bright guy. I mean, I really am in certain areas.
Right.
And, I like to think I like to think I know I can build relationships well. I'm a strong detail guy. Those sorts of things. I
Right.
communicate well. I communicate more effectively in smaller groups.
Yes.
And I know that about myself. That's part of my personality. Some of my limitations, I'm not real strong technically. I don't write particularly well. And I mean, I know these things about myself. And I mean, and again, really, but actually, let's pull it through on the other side from I've let my preference is to work with smaller groups,
Yeah.
10, 12, 5, whatever it might be. I have spoken to groups where there were hundreds and hundreds of people in the audience. Can I do that? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Is it my preference? No, no, it's not because I like to form stronger relationships with
Right.
the smaller groups of people. There's nothing wrong, nothing with people who like the larger groups. It's just their preference. And that's what we need to learn about each other, both professionally and personally, so we can give people the proper assignments and let them flourish.
Right, exactly. And part of that is what I've always said, it's my job as a leader to put you in the best position possible for you to be successful. And that's and for me to give you everything that you need to be successful.
Right. And provide the tools,
Right.
provide the, just everything. I will be
Yeah.
there. I got your back. Go do your thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And, without getting into too much here, yeah, I live in a community that's got a property owners association, and, you know, that has its struggles, um, let's just say, and my position is always, open, honest communication. We don't have to agree on anything, but you need to be have open, honest communication. And you've got however many people that live in this community. We all have our own expertise. You as the board, you don't have to do everything yourself. It's okay to reach out to somebody and say, "You know what, Tim, you've got some marketing expertise, or you've got some PR expertise. Can you help us?"
Exactly. That's
It's
exact.
okay. It's okay. And use the tools and use the resources that you have at your disposal to fill in the gaps, because nobody's gonna be great at everything.
I hope you and I hope the audience will relate to this. I'm not sure if it's the best example in the world. I think it'll work. My wife and I saw Elton John a number of years ago. We both love his music. He's about 75% through the show, 80%, whatever. Finishes a song and he's just quiet. The entire arena is just quiet. Clearly he's going to tell a story. He looks at us. So, about 27, 28 years ago, I was in a lot of trouble. I was doing a lot of things I shouldn't have been doing. He went on for a little while. He said I was drinking a lot and I was doing a lot of bad things. He said, folks, let me tell you something. 3 words saved my life. 3 words. And I'm sitting there thinking, what are the three? What are the 3 words? And you could hear a pin drop. He said, folks, those 3 words simply are, I need help. And everybody needs help at some point in time.
Yes.
Maybe not the kind he's talking about, and that's fine. I
Right.
need help at certain times because I'm not good at everything. I never have been, never will be.
Right. Right. And again, it comes back to knowing who you are and being okay with leaning into that and asking for that help, because as 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 society, we wanna help people.
That's right. That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
well, nobody, at least nobody that I know or that I wanna be associated with, is sitting over here going, "Ah, look at that guy over there struggling. I I I I know I can help him, but I wanna watch him struggle." I don't know anybody like that. I really don't, and I wouldn't want to,
Right.
right?
That's exactly
That's
right.
so, you know, it's okay to ask. We're and if I can't help you, you know what I'm gonna say? "You know what? I can't help you, but this person can, or that person can. And if you want me to make an introduction, or if you want me to make the contact, I'd be happy to do that." That's how I can help. And but again, we have to again know who we are, and be okay with doing that. And that starts really at a young age. If you wait till your mid-20s, mid-30s, it becomes much harder to do, becomes much harder to understand those types of concepts.
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that just, I mean, that's another whole show we could get into
Yeah.
is when do kids people need to be educated about these
Yes,
things.
exactly. I know. I just shake my head sometimes and do what we can do, but,
Well,
it is what it is sometimes.
it is, and yet, you made the comment early in the show, Tim, is that if one person learn something from this, it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just agree with that. You know, am I going to change the world? No, no, I'm not going to change the world. What I'm going to try to do though is help as many people as I can in my time here, and change, influence, make a difference within that sphere, and then
Right.
hopefully that grows based on how they help others.
Exactly. Exactly. It's that pay it forward philosophy. Um, and again, I've said the same things. I can only help people with that are around me, my inner circle, and
That's right.
hopefully that 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 the ripple effect will will take care of itself. So,
Right.
have you ever struggled with imposter syndrome in terms of presenting in front of a group?
Oh
Um,
goodness, yes.
how did you overcome it?
I think a big part for me, Tim, going back to knowing yourself well is just really, really preparing, preparing,
Yeah.
preparing, and realizing one of the mantras I have, and actually it ties into what we're talking about here. Something I believe in very, very strongly is just staying out of what I call the results business. So much of my life's my professional life, my personal life is just out of my hands.
Right.
It's just I don't control the results. Right before we came on the air. I mean, I was looking over my notes and just everything else and just thinking to myself, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm prepared."
Right.
Beyond that, I have no control over how well you think the talk goes, how well what the audience thinks. All I can do is be ready. And I've
Right.
learned that. And when I'm prepared and when I'm ready, the results will take care of themselves.
Exactly. And that's such a good point. And again, Ron, you and I are on the same page there. I'm a researcher. I'm a preparer. I'm somebody that puts time and effort on the front end, because if you don't put it in on the front end, the back end is not going to be good. We know the back end isn't going to be good. We already know that. So put the time and effort in. Do the research, do the practice, and we talk about practice. So one of the first things I asked you when you came on was what? How do you say your last name?
Right.
And you told me, and I said, "Good, that's how I've been practicing it."
Right. I caught that.
And it's but, that's just who I am, right? And so and when I practice and, when I tell people and coach them, you need to be practicing, not just sitting there with your face in your notes. You need to be practicing it like you would actually do it. So, like, you know, basketball players don't sit in a classroom with the lights off dribbling a basketball. They go out to the basketball court with the lights on, dressed in their uniform, and are practicing how they're gonna actually play the game.
Right. That's right.
So if you're gonna get up in front of a team meeting or go to a job interview or go to a networking event or stand on a stage, why would it be appropriate for you to sit at your desk, staring at your computer, reading your notes? That's not practicing. That's called reading your notes.
Right. That's exactly right. Well, and one of the mm, helping me to overcome the imposter syndrome, if you will. When I worked at Toshiba all those years ago, I was going to be doing a 3-day interviewing class. My boss was going to be in the room watching me. She had a 15-page form that she used to
Mhm.
evaluate the trainers that worked for her when she would observe them. She said it, and she said sets the expectations at the end of each day. We're going to sit down and talk about how the day went and so forth. Fine. Day 1, everything went very well. I'm happy, Ron. And, it gave you some good feedback. Day 2, same thing. At
Right,
the end of day 3, Tim, I'll never forget. Barbara came up to me, sat down, and she was like, "Mr. Reich." And that's what she said, "Mr. Reich." And I was like, okay, where are we going with this? She said, "This has never, ever happened in my entire career before. You were flawless. You were flawless for these 3 days. You got 179 points out of the possible 180. And I asked her, of course, "What'd you take the point off for?"
Exactly.
And she said, "Your pants weren't ironed nicely enough today." And my whole point though, Tim, I prepared so hard for that course, standing up, going through it, saying it out loud, just working, 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 so that when the curtain went up, I was ready.
Right. And again, you have to do that. Just like anything else. If you wanna be good at it, it takes work, it takes practice, it takes repetition. And the only way to do that is to put yourself in that position. It just I use, some real simple concepts to break it down. Again, I come from the sport industry. If the all-time greats, the Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordans, the Tom Bradys of the world are working on fundamentals every day, why can't you? And think about think about it on a different on the other level. When you teach a child how to tie their shoe, how long does it take them practicing to do it and get it right? And you see the learning happen. They get frustrated, and you show them again, and they get pieces of it. It comes from practice,
Sure.
and it doesn't just happen.
Well, and see, and part a big part of this too, though, is that as the person is making progress, you need the praise needs to be there so that the
Yes.
confidence starts to increase, and then the relationship strengthens, and everybody's winning. So, I mean, it is just a big, big circle.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, you have to to do that, you've got again, get comfortable being uncomfortable because that's learning. That's the learning piece, right?
That's
That's
right.
you know, it's the I call it frustration, but it doesn't necessarily have to be frustration. It could be, "You know what? I didn't get it that time. What did I miss?" It could be any of those things. I call it again, I call it frustration. It doesn't have to be frustration. It's for me, it's, "Damn it, I missed it again. What
Yeah,
was it?"
yeah. Look,
But that everybody has their own process of learning and figuring that out. Um, so get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Get comfortable with that frustration of I didn't get it right. What do I need to do differently? What do I need to do better? And again, it doesn't matter what it is. If we want to be good at it, it takes work. It takes practice,
that's right.
and that's okay.
That's
It's
right.
okay.
And it's okay to ask for help.
Yep,
And I mean,
absolutely.
it's again, I'll reinforce that. It making me think. Friend mentor of mine, Rich, brilliant, brilliant guy. He's been all over the world, knows all of these different famous people, blah, blah, blah. He's helping me to learn a 2-day leadership class that he had designed and developed. He wanted me to deliver it myself. We had been doing it together. We were in Atlanta, and I did probably maybe 80% of the class. We're talking about it afterwards. He goes, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Rich, I was really happy, except," and I was angry with myself. I was like, "Rich, that change module, I was sloppy with that, and I'm just so mad at myself." And I'll never forget, Tim. Rich just looked at me and he smiled. He goes, "Number 1, I agree. You were a little sloppy. Number 2, don't worry about it. I'll show it to you one more time, and then you'll know it inside and out. Let's go."
Yeah,
And that was
it's
that.
it's that simple, right?
It's that
It's real.
simple.
It's really that simple. I know. So and you're generally working with mid-career and senior career level individuals, um, in leadership positions. What are some communication skills that stand out that the best leaders have?
I think probably the ability to communicate with people how they like to be communicated
Oh,
with,
yeah.
if that makes sense. I mean,
Yes.
the rule I learned years and years ago, if you think about the golden rule, treat people the way you want to be treated, doesn't make sense.
Right.
It just doesn't. It makes no sense. Because if that's the case and I love strawberry ice cream, what am I gonna give you? Strawberry ice cream.
Strawberry ice cream.
What if you hate or are allergic to strawberry ice cream? What I learned was called the platinum rule. The
Yes.
platinum rule, treat people the way they want to
Want
be
to be
treated.
treated.
Well, how does
Yeah,
that happen? You have to get to know them. You have to build a relationship with them.
exactly, exactly.
And
You know, that
I think, and I really, really think that's a big piece of it. It's an area where I think a lot of leaders can improve is just getting to know their colleagues on a deeper level, both professionally and
and
personally.
personally, yes.
Say, "Hey, who are you? What do you love to do, Tim?" And then it's not it's not a surface level thing. Okay, good, box checked. Now let's
Right,
move on. It is let's talk about how was your trip? What's going
right.
on with that? What's the whatever, and building that strong relationship so that there is trust on a lot of different levels.
Yes, yeah. And that again, that's such a critical piece. It's because it's not just that business professional relationship. Because really, if you're just focusing on that, it's really only gonna be surface level business professional.
That's right.
You've got to get to know people as individuals, and I'm not saying you have to be best friends with them. I'm not even saying that you have to be friends with them, but you need to know who they are. You
Well, that's
need to know
right.
what makes them tick. You need to know what's important to them.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's just it's like, "Oh, they they're oh, yeah, there's Ron, the leadership development guy." No, there's Ron, the guy who's been married for 25 years, who loves to travel with his wife, who's a New York Giants season ticket holder, who has read 400 leadership books, who, just and all
Right,
these different things.
right.
And, it's not and again, it's not, "I need to know every detail about you." No, of course
No,
not. That's inappropriate. Still, the relationship needs to be in place.
exactly, exactly. What role does listening from a leadership perspective play? Because to me, I love to listen and I love to ask questions. I think that's one of the things that from a leadership perspective, you've got to be good at is listening and asking questions to really to get at the root or the basis of whatever it is that we're doing.
Right, right. I'm a big believer in Stephen Covey's work, from the 7 Habits, and directly out of habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Good listening for me, what a good leader, anybody needs to do essentially is you translate what you're hearing the person say. Just translate it. And I always say to clients, I say to, people, we listen with 3 different things. We listen with our eyes, we listen, of course, with our ears, and we listen with our heart as well. And,
Right,
listening through the eyes, body language. What's the message I'm getting from a body language perspective? You
right,
may be saying one thing and your body language is getting a totally different signal.
exactly.
That's, tone of voice, critical. And then, with how we listen with our ears, and then heart, emotions, because emotions are a part of any situation, any message that someone's trying to get across. And you translate that. It sounds like you're upset about this. What I'm understanding is that you think we should hold off on launching this product, just as examples.
And why you wanna hold off.
Yeah,
And so that we can either, figure out what we need to do better, what the process is. Maybe there's a flaw in the process, maybe there's a flaw in the materials, whatever it is, but understand that, so then that can be communicated to whoever needs to know that.
exactly.
It's just really so important, the listening piece, and again, not just from the business side, from the personal professional side.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
all of a sudden you've got a longtime employee who's coming in half an hour late 3 times a week.
yeah.
What's going on? Let's sit down and talk to t tell me what's happening. what can we do to support you? Uh, this isn't like you. What's
Exactly.
yeah, and so, but, a lot of that has to do with emotional intelligence, caring, empathy, and coming back to knowing who your employees are, and then being willing to actually listen to the feedback that we're getting.
Exactly.
So, what's one piece of advice that you would give to the younger midlife professionals to improve their communication skills so that, when they do become, you know, come into leadership positions, they're gonna be able to transition much easier.
Oh, man. There's so much to it. And I mean, I think and there really is. I think, one it's really everything we've been talking about. In order to communicate effectively, there are so many different things. Number one, you've
Yeah.
got to know yourself. And I'm also a big believer in the DISC instrument, the
Yeah.
personality assessment. Learning about yourself. Once you know about yourself, then you're going to be able to communicate more effectively with others.
Right.
And learning indeed how to give feedback, how to give non-judgmental feedback, how to listen effectively, how to create a motivational environment by getting to know the people with whom you work. And I mean, where I go with this, and I'm not trying to be self-serving, please, I'm not. I think one of the best things anybody can do is to either is to attend leadership training and then get a coach in order to
Yeah.
reinforce that. Because the training itself, wonderful. Except so often where people fall down is, "Oh, I went to training, it's all good now." And it's like, yeah, except, 6 weeks from now, what are you gonna be applying or how much will you be applying?
Right. And are you gonna fall back on your old habits?
Exactly. Exactly, because it's gotta be reinforced.
Yeah, and, I've again, coming from the higher ed industry, uh, I kept telling people, most college professors have never had a job outside of education, and so they don't have a whole lot of, experience with some of those things, with evaluation, with personnel evaluations, actually, having those types of things, and I would always say, uh, you know, there needs to be some mandatory training when you go from a professor position into administration. How do you develop budgets? How do you manage budgets? How do you manage people? How do you evaluate people?
That's right. It's a completely yeah, well, it's a completely different
Yeah,
set of competencies,
it is.
and I think that's also a big problem that a lot of organizations have,
Yeah.
is that, "Oh, wow, you're a great sales rep. You're gonna be a great sales manager therefore." And it's like, wait a minute,
Stop.
different competencies, different
Right.
job." And, yeah, again, it yeah,
It's very different.
right.
Very different. And again, that's why some of the all-time greats in sport aren't great coaches.
Exactly. Exactly. And somebody, and some of the greatest coaches were not the best players
With
in the
players.
world, and that's
Exactly.
okay too.
Exactly. Like, what's your skill set? Where's your strengths?
Think about Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
Never a
Yes.
great never a great player. He
Mm-mm.
wasn't. He was alright. One of the greatest coaches of all time.
So, I don't know. It's about, yeah, expectations and, what knowing what we're good at.
Right.
So Phil excuse me, Phil, excuse I think Phil Jackson, all of a sudden in my he was Phil Jackson was a voracious reader too. I mean, I don't
Yes.
know if you know that, and I mean, and what he would do is he would give his players different books to read,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some of would just kinda laugh at him and not read it, but those who did, really did, at the end of the day, appreciate that. So I'm sorry for calling you Phil, but there is that relationship there. Ron, where can people find you if they wanna work with you?
Probably the best way to do it, Tim, is via LinkedIn. Just yeah, my name's on the screen there, Ron Reich. The name of my company is RLB Training and Development. Just have a look, please. I welcome the chance just to have a conversation with anybody. Send me a message, whatever you like. I will gladly chat with anybody.
Ron, thank you so much, and I'll put the link in the show notes for everybody. I really do appreciate your time. I love the conversation and can't wait to work with you in the future.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. It's great to talk to you.
Be sure to visit speakingwithconfidencepodcast.com to get your free ebook, The Top 21 Challenges for Public Speakers and How to Overcome Them. You can also register for the Forming for Public Speaking course. Always remember, your voice has the power to change the world. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.